Hi everybody, this is Arkady Frekhtman, a New York City personal injury trial attorney. And I wanted to do this video to talk about the #1 question that I get, both on my YouTube channel and when people text me. And what do you think the #1 question is? And I think it is, how much is my case worth? How much am I going to get? And, you know, I love answering the question if I can, but unfortunately, a lot of the time, people just give me very short sentences, like, I got hit by a car, I have a herniated disc. They don't even tell me, like, where they are and how much am I going to get. And remember, I've done comprehensive videos before about this topic where I laid out the factors. And the factors include things like, #1, what is your injury? #2, how did the accident or the fall or the crash or whatever the incident was that caused the injury, right? How did that happen? That's very, very important. Can you prove liability? Meaning, can you prove fault on the person that you are suing? Are you suing the right people? It could be that you're suing some of the right people, but there could be other defendants, companies, or individuals out there that you or your lawyer failed to sue. So all of these are factors, right? So it's hard in general to give somebody an answer to that question, but I understand, like, I put myself in the shoes of my viewers, and I understand, like, if I had a case, if I got hit by a car and I had a serious life-changing forever injury, like a fusion surgery or a traumatic brain injury, what would I want to know? What I'd want to know, I want to have some certainty in my mind, right? I'd want to know, how much am I going to get and when am I going to get it? You know, how long is this going to take and how much am I going to get? And the best resource for that really is your lawyer, because if you have a lawyer, you should have an open line of communication with your attorney, and that attorney should be giving you feedback. And not only is a conversation and communication with your attorney so vital to finding out how much you're going to get, but also you can use that question and the entire communication world that you have with your lawyer as a gauge, right? As a gauge to see, is this the right lawyer for me? Is this lawyer answering my questions? Is this lawyer taking the time to handle my case properly? Are they preparing the case for success? Because, you know, I was thinking about it this morning. I was in the gym and I was working out a little bit, and I was thinking to myself, the question, how much am I going to get in my personal injury case, is almost like the same as if I was a high school student, okay, and I was a senior in high school and I was getting pretty good grades. And then I thought, how much am I going to earn when I get my first job? Or after, like, you know, 2 or 3 years of working, how much am I going to have in the bank? Am I going to have $1 million? Well, maybe, right? If you study really hard, if you work really hard, if you have the right teachers, like a lawyer is kind of almost like a counselor, right? Like a teacher. If you go to the good school like Harvard, right, then maybe you will have $1 million. But if you just, like, don't do anything, right? If you don't care about your case, if you never call your lawyer, if you just kind of say, whatever happens, happens, well then, you know, it's just like that. It's a coin flip. You might have a good case and you might get a lot of money, but you might not, because the lawyer might not be doing what they should be doing, right? So I think it's really important for the client to be a watchdog and watch over your lawyer, not in a bad way, but just in a way that you should have communication, because their goal, the lawyer's goal, should be your interests, right? So you should be able to communicate with your lawyer. You should be making sure that there's progress going on in the case, like that depositions are happening, that certain discovery is being requested, that the case is going on the trial calendar, because, you know, a case could be taking a long time because there's a lot of work to be done that is being done, but it could also be taking a long time because it's being neglected, and you don't want that, right? So that's really, really important. So I think it's an important question, and I think your lawyer should be able to give you at least a range or an idea. If a lawyer is completely refusing to answer your question and to tell you how much your case is worth, it may mean the lawyer is afraid to go to trial, or perhaps afraid of telling you the case if you have, let's say, a spinal fusion and you were hit by a tractor trailer. Well, I would tell, you could look at my comments, you could look at a lot of my videos. I've said many times, I think that case anywhere is worth $1 million or more, or close to $1 million. If it's going to be less than $1 million, it must be because there's some sort of problem with the case, right? Like a liability problem, no insurance. If there's no money to be obtained, well, that's a big problem. Something like that, right? Maybe the small trucking company and they're going into bankruptcy, whatever. But if there's no problem, if it's a large trucking company like J.B. Hunt or Werner, and they have millions of dollars in insurance, and you have good liability, and you've had, like, say, a spinal fusion, that's a serious injury, a herniated disc that required spine surgery, well, that case should be worth $1 million. But to make it worth $1 million, what do you have to do? Well, you have to file a lawsuit. So many people aren't even filing lawsuits. Like, people that are texting me, and they have lawyers, but the lawyers are just sending these letters, and they're expecting, like, millions to fall from the sky. It just doesn't happen that way. You have to file a lawsuit, take them to task. Number two, you have to get the policy limits and find out the policy limits by court order, all the limits, the primary and the excess umbrella. Number three, you have to make sure you're getting the right medical care, and you have to have a compelling human story that you're telling the jury. And the compelling human story is not, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. You don't want a woe is me story, because nobody cares about that. Everyone gets upset about that and just thinks like, oh, well, they can't be helped then. They're so sad, they can't be helped. The compelling human story is the try story, right? That no matter what, you're not going to give up. You're a fighter. You're going to overcome this. You don't want to be a burden to your family. You don't want to be a burden to your friends, and show, use before and after witnesses to show how this has impacted your life, meaning call community witnesses like your coworkers, your neighbors, your friends, it could be your relatives, right? Anybody. But people should be able to tell. And you don't want it to be cumulative, meaning you don't want every person to say the same thing, because then the judge won't allow it. What you want to do is have each person tell a different story. Like, one person could talk about an injured person as a father, and perhaps they were used to go together to the park with the kids, or as a mother, right? And they would go to the park, and now the person goes to the park alone, and this particular injured person doesn't come to the park anymore because they can't push a swing, they can't play soccer with their child, they stay home. So that could be one story. Another story could be work. And for example, if you were working and you had a coworker, the coworker could talk about things like, well, now they're not coming into work anymore, and now they're coming into work, but they need certain, they're not able to do the same kind of job they were doing before. Before they were able to sit in a chair, they were able to get up, they were able to move boxes, whatever they needed to do. Now they need certain accommodations. They're not able to do the same job. They have to take more frequent breaks, and have these other people who are independent tell that story. And what a lawyer will do is they should interview about, 10 people or however many people you can find for the lawyer, and then call those people at trial. Maybe not all 10, but the lawyer should be almost like an investigator and dig deep and find that diamond, and then call maybe 5 people or 4 people, the best people to tell your story. And they don't have to be on the stand for very long. They could be on the witness stand for like 10 minutes, but they're just telling that one story, or the real compelling thing that they know about how this individual's life has been changed. And then you show that this is a true story. I have people with no skin in the game telling the story. It's not a false story. It's not just doctors that the plaintiff's lawyer hired, right, that are going to come up there and say there's an injury, whereas the insurance company's doctors are going to say there is no injury, or it's not from this fall or this crash, it's degenerative, meaning it's from the normal aging process, or it's not caused by the crash. And a lot of jurors believe that, right? So to give credence to the fact that it's a real injury, you need independent doctors, you need the plaintiff, but you also need these independent witnesses, these community circle of friends, before and after witnesses. It's very, very important. And you want to be able to tell that human story. So to answer the question, I mean, these are all the factors that go into it, right? The factors are the likability of the plaintiff, the venue, the lawyer's ability to pick the right jury. Jury selection is crucial. The persuasiveness of the opening statement. Everything goes into it. And I'm talking about if the case goes to trial. If the case doesn't go to trial, then it's a settlement. And a settlement is usually an amount that the injured plaintiff is happy with, because they'll know it's almost like a contract. They're giving you $500,000. Will you accept it? You'll receive, $300,000 in your pocket. The rest will go to legal fees and expenses. Yes, I want that. Okay, shake hands. Done deal. You're getting that money. It's guaranteed. Whereas with a verdict, you could get more. It could be a $3 million, but then they'll say, you know what? That's excessive. I'm going to appeal that. And now the appeal takes 2 more years. So now you're waiting, right? So those are all the factors that go into it. But I just wanted to explain that this is like an important thing, the question of how much my case is worth, but it's not something I could really answer just based off a comment. And I don't think any lawyer could do that, but it's so important for you as an injury plaintiff, as an injury victim. I don't like the word victim, right? You're not a victim. I like to tell the try story that you're going to overcome this. You're going to get better. You're going to be successful both with your case, with full justice, monetary justice, but also with your health, and your health will come back and you'll rehabilitate. So the point is that you, as that injury plaintiff, have to be in communication with your lawyer. If the lawyer is refusing to communicate, refusing to answer questions, well, maybe you have the wrong lawyer. Maybe you have to get someone else. But you need somebody who's a real fighter for justice, somebody who's a warrior, a trial warrior, who's going to get you the maximum amount of compensation possible under the legal system that we have, right, in your city. And you have to then make it as strong as possible. Just like the example of the kid, right? The kid's a senior in high school. If he studies hard, if he gets good SATs, grades, he's going to go to a good college. If he knows what he wants to be, whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, a carpenter, whatever, he can make a lot of money, whether he starts his own business or works for someone else. Then he'll know, how much am I going to get in those 2-3 years after I finish law school? Well, it could be $1 million. It could be less. But, they're always positive. They're relentless. They're always thinking of a solution, and they're not focused on the problems. They're not like, woe is me, oh, I'm so hurt, or nothing's ever going to get better, because that's just going to, release like cortisol into your brain and make you depressed and just lead you down a path of misery. What you want to do is you want to always be positive, always be constructive, always think of a solution to whatever problem you have. So if you're thinking about how much is my case going to be worth, make it worth as much as possible. Get those independent witnesses, get a diary, a pain journal. Make sure your lawyer is doing everything that they should be doing, but you have a responsibility as a client. And there's a lot of things that you can be doing, like a daily diary of pain, a pain journal, getting all your photos from a photo album, giving them to your lawyer. Even if your lawyer's not asking, say, look, well, wouldn't you want photos of me before doing sports, doing activities, being with my family when I was happy, and now photos after showing me either like in a wheelchair or injured or not being able to do whatever I was doing before, and then these before and after photos are critical. I always ask clients where cases are going to trial for photos, and I exchange all the photographs, like hundreds of photographs, and I exchange before and after witnesses, because that's going to be the human story. And that's what jurors relate to, because jurors are just everyday people. They're our neighbors, they're our friends, everyday people from the community. They don't really care about like medical records. They're not going to comb through thousands of pages of medical records talking about, herniations, degeneration, spondylolisthesis. They don't understand, they don't care. And, you can't really expect them to, right? Because they have their own lives. They're being plucked from their lives as truck drivers, carpenters, lawyers, bankers, whatever they do. Maybe they're unemployed, being plucked from their lives and put into this courtroom, which is almost like a new world that they're not accustomed to. And then they're being told to appraise what somebody else's pain is worth. So do you think they'd rather do that based on a human story that they understand, common sense, right? Their life experience? Or would they do that based on medical records of degeneration or spondylolisthesis or some crazy words that they don't even understand? So I like to balance that out. I mean, of course, you need medical records somewhat. You need doctors, you need medical testimony, but I think the human story really tells the case and lets them connect to the client in a much stronger way. So that's my answer to the question of how much my case is worth and what you as an injury plaintiff can do to make it worth more. And that's what I really think every injury plaintiff should do. So call your lawyer, make sure you get like a pain journal going, a diary, get photographs, think of who can tell my story in the best way. Friends, family, coworkers, independent witnesses. In New York, you have to exchange witnesses at least 30 days before trial, but the earlier you exchange them, the better, right? So these are all the factors that go into what my case will be worth. So just like that student, right? If the student is like thinking like, well, if I want to make $1 million, like 2 years out of when I finish school, after I finish college, what do I need to do? Well, if if you have a passion for your job, if you're going to work hard, if you have good grades, you're more likely to be hired, right? Than as opposed to if you just sit back, do nothing, or just complain and be like, oh, this is too hard. I can't do calculus. It's just too hard. And you're just like, woe is me. I'm just going to complain. I'm miserable. Nothing's going to happen. So that's my answer to the question. Let me know what you think. Let me know what questions you have. And I'm going to refer you maybe to this video, because like if I can answer your question of what your case is worth, I'm happy to do it. And if you want to, text me the 347-566-9595, I'm happy to do a call and discuss it and maybe give you my input. Whether you're in New York, I could maybe give you more input because I'm really familiar with New York. If you're not in New York, I could give you some input, and then I could maybe connect you with a partner of mine that is a specialist in that city, that is one of the best trial lawyers in the country and is getting amazing multi-million-dollar results. But look, if you have a lawyer that you're happy with, that's fine too. You could still reach out. I'm happy to do a consult. I'm happy to give you, guidance. It's not about me getting cases. It's about me doing what I can to help others, right? To help people that need my help. Okay, I hope this has been helpful, and let us know what questions you have. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and we are here for you. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.